Hare Krishna. Naveen, you know how to lower this? No, the volume.
Lower the volume?
Haribo, Haribo, Haribo.
Haribo.
Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Okay, just give me a second here. Okay. All right, just give me a second. I got a key. I got it. Okay. Thank you. Oh, I get both, huh? You think the class will be twice as good otherwise? Okay. Who's going to play the drum? You got the drum. Okay. Ramapati is on strike. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So this being the very auspicious day of anniversary of the appearance of Shri Rādhā-kuṇḍa and Balalashtami, I'm going to read an excerpt from the purports to the 36th chapter, 6th verse, I get, of the 10th canto. So just give me a second here. Yeah, this is 10:36:16. I'm sorry. The context is that Arishta, the bull demon, has just been killed by Krishna, very fearsome demon, scaring the whole community of Vrindavan. And after that, Krishna creates Śyāma-kuṇḍa. So that's going to be explained, and then after that comes Rādhā-kuṇḍa. So from the Puranas, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur has quoted 20 verses describing a joking conversation between Radha and Krishna that took place after Krishna had killed the demon Arishta. This conversation, so kindly quoted by the Acharya, describes the origin of Rādhā-kuṇḍa and Śyāma-kuṇḍa, Radha's and Krishna's bathing ponds. The verses are as follows. I'll just skip the Sanskrit. The innocent young gopi said, "Ah, Krishna, don't touch us now, O killer of a bull. Alas, even though Arishta was a terrible demon, still he was a male cow. So you will have to undergo atonement, just as Lord Indra did after killing Vritrasura. But how can you purify yourself without going to the trouble of visiting every single holy place in the three worlds?" So Krishna replied, "Why should I have to wander throughout the entire universe? I will at once bring all the countless pilgrimage places here and take my bath in them." Now the understanding is that at every pilgrimage place there's a holy river. And so the ones who come are all the rivers come. That's what the holy places are. "Just watch," he says. With this, Lord Mukunda struck his heel on the ground. Then he said, "This is the water of the Bhagavati river, coming from the Patala region. And now, O holy places, all of you please come here." When the Supreme Lord had spoken these words, all the holy places went there and appeared before him. Krishna then addressed the gopis as follows, "See all the holy places." But the gopis replied, "We don't see them as you describe." Then those best of holy places, joining their palms in supplication, spoke up, "I am the salt ocean. I am the ocean of milk. I am the Amaradirghika. I am the river Shona. I am the Sindhu. I am the Tamraparni. I am the holy place Pushkar. And I am the river Saraswati. And we are the Godavari, Yamuna, and Reva rivers, and the confluence of rivers at Prayag. Just see our waters." After purifying himself by bathing in the rivers, which are now made a big lake called Śyāma-kuṇḍa, Lord Hari became quite arrogant and said, "I have produced a pond containing all the various holy places, whereas you gopis must never have executed any religious duties on this earth for the pleasure of Lord Brahma." Then Srimati Radharani addressed her girlfriends as follows, "I must create an even more beautiful pond, so go to work." Having heard these words, the gopis saw that Arishtasura's hooves had dug a shallow ditch just west of Sri Krishna's pond. At that nearby spot, all the gopis began digging up lumps of soft mud with their hands, and in this way a divine pond manifested in the short span of an hour. Krishna was astonished to see the lake they produced, but there's no water yet. He said, "Go ahead, lotus-eyed one. You and your companion should fill this pond with water from mine." Radha replied, "No, no, no, no. This is impossible, since the water of your pond is contaminated by your terrible sin of killing a cow. I will have my countless gopi companions bring the pure water of the Manasa Ganga here in billions of pots. In this way I will fill this lake with my own water, and thus make its renown unequaled in the entire world." Lord Krishna then gestured to a heavenly personality who was an intimate associate of all the holy places. Suddenly that person rose up out of Krishna's pond and bowed down to the daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu, Radharani. Then with palms joined and tears pouring from his eyes, he began praying to her in devotion. "O goddess, even Lord Brahma himself, the knower of all scriptures, cannot understand your glories, nor can Lord Shiva or Lakshmi. Only Krishna, the supreme goal of all human endeavor, can understand them, and thus he feels obliged to personally make sure that you can wash away your perspiration when you are fatigued. He is always anointing your lotus feet with nectarian charu and yavaka and decorating them with ankle bells, and he rejoices and feels most fortunate simply by satisfying the tips of the toes of your lotus feet. On his order, we have immediately come here to live in this most excellent pond, which he created by one stroke of his heel. But only if you now feel satisfied with us and bestow upon us your merciful glance will the tree of our desire bear fruit." Hearing this prayer spoken by the representative of the full assembly of the holy places, Sri Radha was pleased and said, "So, kindly tell me your desire." They then told her plainly, "Our lives would be successful if we could come to your pond. That is the benediction we desire." Glancing at her beloved from the corners of her eyes, Radharani replied with a smile, "Please come." Her gopi companions all agreed with her decision and became immersed in the ocean of happiness. Indeed, the beauty of all creatures, both mobile and stationary, was enhanced. Thus, gaining the grace of Srimati Radharani, the holy rivers and lakes in Sri Krishna-kuṇḍa forcibly broke through the boundary wall. You know, there's a wall. If you visit there, you'll see there's a wall between Rādhā-kuṇḍa and Śyāma-kuṇḍa. Forcibly broke through the boundary walls and swiftly filled Rādhā-kuṇḍa with their waters. Lord Hari then said, "My dear Radha, may this pond of yours become even more world-renowned than mine. I will always come here to bathe and to enjoy my water pastimes. Indeed, this lake is as dear to me as you are." Radha replied, "I will come to bathe in your pond as well, even though you may kill hundreds of Arishta demons here. In the future, anyone who has intense devotion for this lake, which is on the spot where you chastised Arishtasura, and who bathed or resides here, is sure to become very dear to me." That night, Lord Krishna initiated a rasa dance at Rādhā-kuṇḍa, generating a torrent of the greatest mood of splendorous pleasure. Sri Krishna resembled a cloud, and Srimati Radharani a brilliant flash of lightning filling the sky with abundant beauty. In this way, their divine glories permeated the expanses of the three worlds. Okay. All glories to Sri Rādhā-kuṇḍa, the appearance of Rādhā-kuṇḍa. And this is, if you want to read it for yourself, Canto 10, Chapter 36, verse 16, purport. And now we will move to another big water pastime, Matsya in the ocean. It's a watery day. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By attending classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the best of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of October 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations. Chapter 24, Matsya, the Lord's Fish Incarnation, text 52 and 53. We'll chant 52 together. Tvam sarvalokasya surit Priyeshwaro hi atma gurur jnanam abhishta siddhi tatapi loko nabhavantam andhadir janati santam hridi badhnakamaha Tvang sarvaloka sasurit priyeshwaro yatma guru jnanam abhishta siddhi tatapi loko nabhavantam andhadir janati santam vidibandakamaha Tvang sarvaloka sasurit priyeshwaro Yatma Guru Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Janati Sanktam Vidibandha Kamaha. Tvang Savaloka Surit Priyeshwaro. Gyatma Hurur Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Janati Santam Vidibandha Kamaha. Tvang Savaloka Surit Priyeshwaro. Yatma Guru Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Ganati Santam Vidibandha Kamaha. Tvam Savaloka Surit Priyeshwaro. Yatma Guru Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Tisantam Hridibandha Kamaha. Govardhan, give it a shot. Tvam Savaloka Surit Priyeshwaro. Yatma Guru Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Nati Santam Vidibandha Kamaha. Ladies. Tvang Savaloka Surit Priyeshwaro. Yatma Guru Jnanam Abhishta Siddhi. Tatapi Loko Nabhavanta Mandadir. Janati Santam Vidibandha Kamaha. Tvam, you, my dear Lord, Sarvalokasya, of all planets and their inhabitants. Surit, the most well-wishing friend. Priya, the most dear. Ishvaraha, the supreme controller. He also. Atma, the supreme soul. Guruhu, the supreme teacher. Jnanam, the supreme knowledge. Abhishta Siddhi, the fulfillment of all desires. Tata api, still. Lokaha, persons. Na, not. Bhavantam, unto you. Andadihi, because of blind intelligence. Janati, can know. Santam, situated. Riddhi, in his heart. Bandha Kamaha, because of being bewildered by material lusty desires. Translation. My Lord, so this is Satyavrata speaking to Matsya, offering prayers. And tell me if I'm wrong, but Satyavrata is the author of Namamishwaram Damodarashtakam. Different one? Oh, a different Satyavrata. Okay. Okay, sorry. I knew it was Satyavrata anyway. My Lord, you are the supreme well-wishing friend of everyone, the dearmost friend, the controller, the supersoul, the supreme instructor, and the giver of supreme knowledge and the fulfillment of all desires. But although you are within the heart, the foolish, because of lusty desires in the heart, cannot understand you. Purport. Herein the reason for foolishness is described. Because the conditioned soul in this material world is full of materialistic, lusty desires, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, Ishvarak Savabhutanam Videshayarjuna Tishtati, it is because, you cannot understand the Supreme Lord because, although the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, period. It is because of this foolishness that one cannot take instructions from the Lord. Although the Lord is ready to instruct everyone, both externally and internally. The Lord says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. In other words, the Lord can give instructions on devotional service by which one can return home back to Godhead. Unfortunately, however, people do not take this devotional service. The Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, can give one complete instructions on going back to Godhead. But because of lusty desires, one engages himself in materialistic activities and does not render service to the Lord. Therefore, one is bereft of the value of the Lord's instructions. By mental speculation, one can understand that one is not the body, but a spirit soul. But unless one engages in devotional service, the real purpose of life is never fulfilled. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, and live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are different items of ananda, spiritual happiness, in spiritual variegatedness. Even though one may come to the platform of Brahma Bhuta and understand his spiritual identity by speculative knowledge, one cannot enjoy spiritual life without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is indicated here by the word abhishta siddhi. One can fulfill the ultimate goal of life only by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Then the Lord will give one proper instructions on how to go back home, back to Godhead. So I'll just read the translation and purport for the next one. O Supreme Lord, for self-realization I surrender unto you, who are worshipped by the demigods as the supreme controller of everything. By your instructions, exposing life's purpose, kindly cut the knot from the core of my heart and let me know the destination of my life. Purport. Sometimes it is argued that people do not know who is a spiritual master, and that finding a spiritual master from whom to get enlightenment in regard to the destination of life is very difficult. To answer all these questions, King Satyavrata shows us the way to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the real spiritual master. The Supreme Lord has given full directions in the Bhagavad Gita about how to deal with everything in this material world and how to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, one should not be misled by so-called gurus who are rascals and fools. Rather, one should directly see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the guru or instructor. It is difficult, however, to understand the Bhagavad Gita without the help of the guru. Therefore, the guru appears in the parampara system. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends Tadvidhi panipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadaishinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Close quote. Lord Krishna directly instructed Arjuna. Arjuna is therefore Tattvadarshi or Guru. Arjuna accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padam Brahma, Padam Dhamma, Pavitram, Padamam Bhavan. Similarly, following in the footsteps of Sri Arjuna, who was a personal devotee of the Lord, one should accept the supremacy of Lord Krishna, as supported by Vyas, Devala, Asita, Narada, and later by the Acharyas Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka, and Vishnu Swami, and later still later, by the greatest Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Where then is the difficulty in finding a guru? If one is sincere, he can find the guru and learn everything. One should take lessons from the guru and find out the goal of life. Maharaj Satyavrata therefore shows us the way of the Mahajan. Mahajano yena gatak sapanta. One should surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dashavatar, and learn from him about the spiritual world and the goal of life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Urmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, these two verses are all about finding the genuine spiritual master. The first verse we read, 52, talks about the real spiritual master is Krishna himself. He's the original spiritual master. And a genuine spiritual master in this world is someone who is a transparent medium for giving Krishna's instructions. And not only that, but embodies those instructions. Can't just be speaking the knowledge, but not following. And we need to contact such a person. And that was Prabhupada's whole mission in coming to the West, to give people a chance to hear from a genuine spiritual master who, as Prabhupada emphasized many times, is simply speaking Krishna's words. He's simply a pure, unobstructed medium for giving Krishna's words, and he embodied those instructions as well. Very important. And then he has credibility. And because Srila Prabhupada was so surrendered to his own spiritual master and to Lord Chaitanya, who he describes here as the Supreme Acharya, he had the potency to cut through. And you remember the time, maybe not as well as I do, those 60s, there were so many gurus coming over to strike it rich in America, because the Beatles had popularized Eastern thought and My Sweet Lord. And so there was a great market, and many were misguided, and they got under the influence. Srila Prabhupada himself, where is he going to go to New York? He had his little place in what's the name of the town that he went to first? Butler, Pennsylvania, which has now become famous for something else, which I shall not ever mention in these quarters. But it's all the way there in western Pennsylvania, but there's not, there wasn't a preaching there that he could do. So he very bravely, just like he came to America, very bravely went to New York to try to do something. He had one contact, Dr. Mishra, he was able to stay there, but he was an impersonalist. And although Dr. Mishra really appreciated Prabhupada, especially his cooking, he said he brought me back to life, he was very sick. And, but he really wouldn't let him preach, because he saw that, I don't know, Prabhupada had more charisma than he did, and his students were becoming attracted. So it was kind of, treading water up there. And Dr. Mishra, he said, well, you can't stay here in the ashram anymore, but I have a place near Riverside, near the East River. So you can stay there. It was an office building, so he gave him a nice office to live in. There was no cooking facility. So it was difficult. And as we read in the Lilamrita, Prabhupada would periodically, so you taking off? Okay, so let's wish Jamal a safe journey back. Thank you so much for coming, and please come back. Haribol. Come back again soon, Prabhu. So then Krishna arranged that Prabhupada was attracted down to where there were some serious seekers. They didn't really know what they were seeking. They were using drugs, so it was difficult. But still, they heard there was this new guru up there on up in the west side, and so they invited Prabhupada to come down, and there was the connection with the restaurant. What was it called? There was a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant. That was a place. I used to go there because in 1968, I lived 2 blocks from Tompkins Square Park for about a year. What is it? Paradox Restaurant. And it was more than a restaurant. It was a place where people came after they had been to New Mexico and they come back. They'd been to India and come back, and they would then share. You could sit there all day after you spent $1 on a plate of vegetables and rice, and then you could have tea the rest of the day and just schmooze, And so people would come and they would share everything. So it was a connection place. And so there was one fellow who heard about Prabhupada, and he somehow contacted him, invited him down. He came down, and then he saw this was a better field, and he got that place in the Bowery, which is a loft. They had to climb upstairs. But it was a place where he could cook and have programs and the chanting and the thing. And Mukunda, Michael Grant came there and others, you know. So that's how the seeds were planted. And of course, 26 Second Avenue. But always Prabhupada felt that he was in this mood of delivering the message as it is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, to these people who had become somewhat receptive because of the chanting. And you know, the chanting was a process that anyone could take part in. It was mystic power, and we know how powerful that mantra is. By chanting with some concentration, and then you feel transcendental power. You don't know what's going on, but it's a nice feeling. So that was his program. They would have chanting and kirtan, more chanting and prasadam. It's almost like the Sunday program. It was very successful. He got some serious followers there, as we know, those pioneers, Hatsarup Maharaj and Brahmananda, his brother, and several others, of course, Mukunda, Yamuna. And he was off and running. And the next thing is going to the West Coast and the whole thing found and first Ratha Yatra and everything. So anyway, but there's very important points being made in these verses, that we recognize that Krishna is the original guru. Prabhupada quotes this verse, Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogatam yena mamupayanti te. This is one of the 4 key verses in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada told us, beginning with the 8th verse of the 10th chapter, where Krishna declares himself to be God. And what's the most important? God, I am the source of everything. Right? Tato brahma jigyasa janmajasya yataha. So aham savasya prabhavo mattaksam bhavartate iti madvabhajante mam buddha bhava samandita. He says, I am the source of everything. Everything is coming from me. Now you think, well, that's a little redundant. But it's from 2 different points of view. From my point of view, I'm saying I'm creating everything. But from your point of view, you're seeing everything. You should know it's coming from me. You see? So those who know that worship me with all their hearts. So how? Next verse. Matchitta madgata prana bodhayantak parasparam katayantastamam nijam tushyanti chadamanti. More or less what we're doing now. You know? With matchitta, they place their mind on me. And of course, in this age, the best way to do this is chanting Hare Krishna. You know, and of course so many other ways, but that starts with that. And gata prana, they dedicate their life energy to me. In other words, they're serving me in so many ways with the activities of their senses, mind, and everything. Bodhayantak parasparam, and they get together and they discuss me. Katayantastamam nityam, they're always chanting and hearing about and in this way, tushyanti chadamanti, they're very satisfied and experiencing a spiritual bliss. So this getting together, and of course the prime hearing and chanting is Sankirtan, hearing and chanting the holy name. It all begins with that. Anyone can learn the mantra in about 15 seconds, and join in. And if you can't remember it, then you can stand in the back and read it, until you learn it. But it's the dharma of the age. Hare Nama, I think Prabhupada is quoted he's in the morning, the reading, he quoted that. Hare Nama, eva kevalam kalo nasteva gatadanyata. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto thy lotus feet bow. Sorry, I added a few words to make it come out even, but I think it's okay. So that was the central verse. Lord Chaitanya, he quoted that verse as like the impetus for the Sankirtan. So, and here, that Prabhupada mentions Dasavatar. This Matsya is one of the 10 avatars, main avatars of Krishna. And it never ceases to astound, I remember when I was first read, I was actually working on the book, and the 3rd canto, the chapter about Lord Boar and the battle with Hiranyaksha, right? And it was just amazing, that Krishna would appear as a boar, because that's what's needed. He needed that big snout to pick up the earth and take it up to the surface of the ocean, float it on there. So, the battle, was so dramatic. He was kind of teasing everyone. He dropped his weapon at one point, and all the demigods said, I don't know what's going to happen now, So, and all of these avatars, they're fascinating. I mean, you have, as we say, Matsya here, and the boar avatar, and of course Nrsingadev. When is there a dull moment in reading through the Bhagavatam and you see these wonderful adventures? And they're all basically, they're all doing the same thing in one sense. They're furthering the opportunity of the living entities who are fortunate to turn their mind toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and get out of this trap of Maya. Maya is the supreme con artist, con artist, to convince you that you can benefit, by engaging in this sense gratification, in this sense gratification, and you dedicate your life to that, and that's all you know. But it's a trap because it's not benefit. You stay bound up to birth and death and so much suffering. But Krishna comes and he's not conning us. He's telling us the truth, although it sounds amazing. We're kind of used to all the amazing things in Krishna consciousness, but it requires a bit of a leap of faith to begin chanting Hare Krishna seriously and giving it. But as I mentioned, the wonderful thing is the power of the chanting is such. Just wonderful kirtan and the japa. You can't do that with a little attention and not feel the effect, and not feel the first effect is that all those crazy things we're interested in, they go back then, and it's you're getting detached. If you're seriously chanting and following, that's one of the first things. As it says in the Bhagavatam, second chapter, that famous second chapter, those series of verses. The second verse of the lesson says, when the Savai Pungsang Paro Dharma, the supreme dharma in this age, is that which leads to, that which engenders devotion unto the transcendental Lord, the Adhokshaja, you see. But it has to be without material motivation and unbroken to fully satisfy the self. And then the very next verse describes how you develop attachment quickly. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Priyojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahoitikam. Janayati is one of these words in Sanskrit that you can easily remember because it sounds almost like what it means in English. Generate. Janayati and generate. Isn't that far out? There's a lot of words like that. So what he says there is that this service unto Vasudeva, Krishna, Bhakti Yoga, quickly generates detachment and knowledge, you see, which are essential foundations of progress in devotional service. The knowledge that we're not this body, the knowledge that the Super Soul is there, that Krishna is the Supreme Person. All these elements of knowledge, when we accept them, it's the foundation of our faith. If you don't believe it, then the book goes back on your shelf for another 2 years before it falls off and hits you in the head and reminds you should read again. We've had stories like that. Some fellow's mother bought a book, back in the 70s and put it on the shelf in the garage. The boy is born and grows up, is playing around in the garage, the book falls down, hits him on the head. He said, "What's this?" And looks at it, becomes a devotee. Things like that happen. So anyway, this is just one of the many passages. And this story, the expanding fish, well, Krishna can do whatever he wants, and this was his choice of how he was going to manifest. And Satyavrata, is such a wonderful devotee. And I surrender unto you who worship by the demigods, supreme controller. By your instructions exposing life's purpose, kindly cut the knot from the core of my heart, and that we know the destination of my life. So this is the kind of prayer we should also adopt. That, please, O Lord, I've been in this movement for X number of years, but I feel that I'm not making enough progress. Please, inspire from within my heart what I should do to really be. I'll give you an example. Now you can take this or leave it. Maybe it was just a coincidence, okay? But when I first came to Krishna consciousness, it took me a while, after first meeting the devotees, because I had a job and I was a regular visitor of Ramakrishna Mission and another, the Integral Yoga Institute. I was doing Bhakti, so I had different involvements. But I was attracted to the temple. One of the attractions, frankly, was because I saw God plays the flute. I was a flute player. I was a serious flute player. So this is far out, you know. So that piqued my interest. And of course the prasadam. No one else had prasadam like the temple, so that kept me coming back. But I had my job, I had a car, I had an apartment, I had a little bank account, you know. And so I was kind of entangled, although I didn't have any, I was following the four regs, unknowing about the four regs, so there's that. So anyway, there came a point where, and I was visiting the temple and they had these beautiful posters, you know, the paintings. So one of the ones, I don't know if you remember this one, I think it's in the second canto, you'll find it in the color section. The Lord in the heart, you know, it's red, you know, and just the way Radharani painted it, the Lord, there's so much mercy and so much compassion coming out of that face, you know, so I love that paint. And I put that up on my wall, big poster, like bigger than these. And so I chanted Hare Krishna in front of that poster and I begged, please give me something so I can take the next step, you know, the next step. And I was going to the temple, I was attracted, but I didn't feel secure in doing that. So anyway, that day, the next day, or that day, because I would do it in the morning and go to work, there was a clipping from a newspaper of another job in a hospital. That I was working in a hospital. I'd been working for a whole year as an inhalation therapist. People who run the air machines and run up, you know, if there's an emergency with the bag, and so we were a team, and I was I was experienced at it. So this advertisement was a different job in inhalation therapy in a hospital much closer to where I was living. I had to drive like a half hour to get to work every day, and it was for the night shift. And I said, oh, that's what I need. You know, the night shift, and then I'll take maybe a couple hours rest, and then every day I can drive into the city and go to the yoga studio, Ramakrishna, whatever else is going on. You know, maybe I'll visit the Hare Krishna temple. So. So I accepted that. I had been a good worker, and therefore they gave me a good recommendation and everything, you know, done this other job. So I started training up. Smaller hospital. There were only maybe 6 or 8 patients that needed monitoring. The other one had 20. So they took me around, and I was qualified, so I got the job. I said, okay, now I'm on the night shift, my first night, you know. And the patients were mostly sleeping. There really wasn't much to do, you know. And because of the chanting I'd been doing and the hatha yoga and my diet, which was all raw food and everything except for the halva that I couldn't stop eating, I was sensitive. And I was sensing some of the ghosts in there, you know. Because a lot of people die in the hospital, and maybe they got familiar to the hospital, they don't leave anyway. So I went with my job, and there wasn't much going on, and you know, after a week, I couldn't take it, and I was praying to the Super Soul. So I decided to join the temple, and I called them up and said, "Send the van." They would send the van out and pick up whatever you needed that could be used in the temple, and you leave everything else. But I did it in a responsible way. I closed out the apartment and everything. I took my little Lakshmi out of the account. It wasn't so little, actually. Now, you know, now it sounds like nothing. It was about $1,700. But if you look at the inflation, it was $10,000. So anyway, I gave it to the temple, and I immediately became the best friend of this devotee named Maheshwar. What is his name? It's something anyway. So that was how I joined the temple. And I saw, you know, I saw, oh boy, Krishna really helped me when I prayed like that. He gave me that arrangement to join. So that kind of prayerfulness is really how we're supposed to chant Hare Krishna. It's a call, you know, Krishna, please engage me in your service. Please engage, oh Radha and Krishna, you know. Please let me overcome this problem, this attachment, that and that. The prayerfulness is so important because Krishna's in the heart. He can understand how sincere you are in really wanting to advance in devotional service. And at the same time, there are so many wonderful prayers in the Bhagavatam and other books in Chaitanya Charitamrita that one can adopt. Like I always point, Kunti's prayers are famous, you know. And that one, my favorite one, is Tvayime Yanannibhishaya. It's near the end, and she's praying directly to Krishna. He's about to leave for Dwarka, you know. Tvayime Yanannibhishaya mati marupateya sakrit Previously, the previous prayer, she prayed that her strong attachment to her children, would be broken, because she saw that as an impediment. It was mixed in with the appreciation for the spiritual, status was, of course, motherly affection. So she prays, please, even chindi, cut that off. And this prayer is what to do with all that love, O Madhava, O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. And that's a prayer any of us can offer to Krishna right here, So that kind of, because one thing, that you learn, if you could read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you read it, is this essential verse, the first line of which Prabhupada translated eventually as Krishna consciousness. It was written by Ramananda Roy and included in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, and it's often attributed to Rupa Goswami, but it's really by Ramananda Roy. So he says, Krishna Bhakti Dasa bhavitamati kriyatam yadikutopi labhyate tatta laulyam api mulyam ekalam janmakoti sukratayana labhyate. So Krishna Bhakti Dasa bhavitamati, that became Krishna consciousness. It means your mind, mati, absorbed in Krishna Bhakti rasa, in the mellows of devotional service all the time. That's the goal. He said you should buy it if you find it in the market, but you have to have the right price. What's the right price? A price means mulyam, right? Tattva laulyam api mulyam ekalam. The only price is your greed for it, your desire for it. And that's not so easy to get, the desire, because that's the bhakti lata growing, So you can perform pious activities for millions of births and you're not going to get it, you see. So how do you develop that greed, that desire, that ardent desire to be absorbed in Krishna Bhakti Rasa? By sincere practice, by hearing and chanting and association with those who have that. That's the thing, by sincerely chanting and doing all the process. When you think about it, what does surrender mean? We have the 6 principles of surrender. The first is anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, is to accept those things which are favorable to Krishna consciousness and reject those activities that are unfavorable. Those are the things that are unfavorable. And you can see that's true of anything that you want to advance in. Suppose you want to become an Olympic pole vaulter. Can you just pick up a stick and run toward the thing and expect you're going to jump over? You'd probably injure yourself, No, you need a trainer, you need to, find out how to do it, how not to do it, right? There are so many things. Diet, exercise, it's all part of it. So those who are serious about it, who really have greed for it, ardent desire, they'll actually accept everything and reject those things that are, and if they, have the good fortune of it, they can become champions. So the wonderful thing about Krishna, every living being, every human being, let's put it that way, is eligible to take this up because you have the intelligence. But we have to overcome our conditioning. That's the thing. We have to be able to have determination to act in such a way to do those things that will loosen the knots in the heart. Those famous knots. And that's the different process of devotional service. But that means, getting up early in the morning. Often that's the first, hurdle. You have to get up early in the morning and bathe and be clean and do all these things and hang out with the devotees, associate with the devotees to learn about what's good and what's not, how to put on tilak, what to say, all the different things, So that's why we have an association. Prabhupada knew it had to be a society, that the only way is to have a society that people can join so they're not associating with so many others who are going to confuse you. And that's constantly emphasized. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastri Kori, Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarvasiddhi Hoy. That even a moment's association with the real sadhu can give you all perfection. Why? Because it leads to more moments, not just that one moment and you don't associate anymore. But that a moment, you'll plant the seed of interest and desire and some faith so that you come back and then eventually say, this is really how I want to live. You have to have some good background for that. So it's getting late. And there was a lot today, and wonderful story of Rādhā-kuṇḍa. So I'll throw it open for any discussion on these points. There's very good, wonderful passages here about who is the guru and the relation with the guru and so forth. It's essential for us. Yes, Sureshwar. Oh, you raising your hand? No. Okay, just yawning. Go ahead. No, it's here.
In the purport you're reading, there's a few sentences there about how easy it is to find a guru.
Yeah.
From Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all the way down and so on. So how do you expand on that? It seems that there are certain situations where people have absolutely no facility to find a spiritual master. Maybe living somewhere or in previous times. Because today with the internet and books and, if you're really looking, there's so much exposure.
Yeah.
But people who are in I'll put a blanket, people in situations where there's absolutely no exposure whatsoever, what do we say about them? That it seems like there's no facility whatsoever, no guru available.
Well, that's
what happened.
That's the impetus for reaching out for the Sankirtan movement, going out, trying to give them, the ideal thing. Take a book, they get immediate exposure to Prabhupada. Kirtan, which draws attention, if nothing else. It may not be positive at first, but a certain number of people are attracted to that. They hear and they get purified in that way. So that was Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya came with these two motives, right? One was to relish Krishna's beauty and all of that from Radharani's point of view. We know that from the very beginning of Bhagavatam. And he did that, especially at the end, those last 12 years in Puri. But there was also preaching. Anarpita chadim chadat karunayamatirna kalo, what he gave, what had not been given forever, practically. And that whole scene in Navadvip where he went out and had the first Harinam, and he had Nityananda, and it was very much in trying to plant the seeds in the hearts of the conditioned souls, and that's why this movement is so much. There's so much outreach. But individually, it's true, because this age is so dark and there's so much misleading going on. And, we never had this thing with carrying your phone around and you got the opportunity. When I joined, there wasn't any TVs or radios in the temple. What we heard was Prabhupada lectures everywhere, And so I was blissfully unaware. There was this whole crisis that happened with the oil shock, about a month or two after I joined. And I wasn't really directly affected. All I knew was that it was hard to fill up the Sankirtan vans with gas. They were telling us about the lines and everything, But I was blissfully unaware. I was, disconnected. But now it's impossible. Now that there's so many things impinging on your attention. This is an attention economy. That's valuable. If they have your attention, then they can plant a seed in your heart. And I really want this, and you're often, So there are difficulties, maybe that weren't foreseen in the Bhagavatam here. But if one is sincere, this is of course a big if, but that's the thing. If you're really looking, then we have the responsibility to be there and to give the opportunity. That yes, come visit the Hare Krishna temple, come to a class, especially get a book, and then you can really get some good instruction that way, and and you're off and running. So it's easy in one sense, because as soon as you learn that Krishna's in your heart and he's trying to instruct you, okay, then let me. How can I get that instruction? Oh, why do you read this Bhagavad Gita as it is? This is Krishna speaking, and if you're submissive, if you're receptive, then you're very fortunate. The problem is that there's so much nonsense going on, which Prabhupada often attacks in his purports. Of so-called spiritual this, spiritual that. God is dead. There's no God, whatever, or your God. It's a big fog that we have to fight, But that's our service, is to try to push away the ignorance and somehow reach one soul at a time and pique the interest enough so they'll take a book, or at least take a mantra card and meditation, come to the lounge, and So it's a struggle, and it's even a struggle for us who've been around for a while to keep up the standard and to, as I say, keep up the intensity of the prayer ourselves that we want to advance, go back to Godhead. All right, anyone else? Balaramji?
Just in addition to what Dravida Prabhu said, I was just thinking, I read Bhakti Sundar Goswami's book some time ago, Srila Prabhupada in Venezuela, and when Prabhupada was in Venezuela, one woman asked him a question, interesting question. She said, she was a little older, and she said, why did you take so long to come, and why wasn't Krishna consciousness available? And Prabhupada said something, and she just said, oh, you weren't ready at that time. So, like Dravida Prabhu was mentioning, the sincerity of a person or the readiness of a person is an important factor in the equation.
Yeah, thank you. I've often marveled at how the timing of Prabhupada's coming was so amazing. I mean, if he'd come in the 50s, it would have been a whole different atmosphere, but the 60s, I don't want to say it because of LSD, but that shook everyone's brain up, and they would said, really? I didn't know about that. And indeed, many of his first followers had been taking it, but they had to stop taking it, in order to become sincere. So the timing that he came in the mid-60s was perfect, just in time for the Summer of Love. In 67, he was there. The pictures of him chanting in the middle of Golden Gate Park. They didn't know. They brought out the big Jagannath. He was sitting there next to Prabhupada. That was the one time he said, bring out the deities to the park, But there was a tremendous field that had opened up and was... you were able to plant some seeds and get some leaders who could really preach and knew how to manage and make it work. And so that's Krishna's arrangement. And I could see it in my little experience myself, the chance. And each one of us, we may not realize it, that we're especially fortunate amongst all the millions of people to be serious about Krishna consciousness and about chanting. And to be fortunate to have that. So we should give that fortune to others. That's the idea. Okay, we can adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.